This year's NFL draft features some of the most exciting running back prospects we've seen in a very long time. But who makes the cut for the top 10? Some of these names might surprise you. It's time to rank the top 10 running backs in the 2025 NFL draft. As we did with the quarterbacks, we have 3 tiers for today's show. Tier 3 is high upside committee running backs. Tier 2 is potential starters. And Tier 1 is a singular player, which you could probably guess who it is. Blue chip talented guys that can take over the NFL. Let's start with Tier 3, Ryan. High upside committee running backs, meaning guys that are likely to early on contribute in a rotation with another starting running back, but have the potential to eventually take over the primary share of carries, are 10 through 7 for this tier. At 10, Ollie Gordon. At 9, Quinshon Judkins of Ohio State. Number 8, RJ Harvey of UCF. And number 7, Devin Neal of Kansas. Who's the one guy in this grouping, Ryan, that you want to boast about?
I think this tier, Joe, is about guys that maybe don't have an all-around profile, but do something really, really well. And that's why I look at a guy like a Devin Neal, who comes in at number 7 for us out of Kansas. He's a forgotten running back in this class, man, because he's not the most dynamic athlete of the bunch, but he's a guy that has incredible foot quickness, understands how to create space for himself. He might not be a home run hitter, but he's going to hit a lot of singles and doubles, which you need in a committee approach.
Yeah, Devin Neal is such a great player, and his vision is truly tremendous. You and I had differing opinions for this consensus ranking, and I really loved RJ Harvey. So if you want to share any qualms with him, you're more than welcome to. But the thing that I loved about the UCF running back RJ Harvey is the compact build, the aggressive nature in which he plays with, and then his athletic testing, I think, backed up maybe any questions about if he had that pickup speed that we look for in a premier back. I really do think that RJ Harvey is going to get some early carries as a second RB and then eventually explode into a player that starts for a team.
No major qualms with RJ Harvey. I think there's just a little bit of a difference of opinion because there's so many great backs in this class, so you're just separating by little minute details. He was a great tester at the combine, ran 4.41. It was dynamic in that regard. I just didn't necessarily think that it showed up consistently on film. I think, again, he's a more of a singles versus doubles hitter compared to a home run hitter. So a little bit further down my list, but I still think that he's going to be a solid part of a committee on the NFL level.
Moving on to tier 2, Ryan, which is potential starters, guys that we think are actually going to take over once they get a couple of opportunities early on in their rookie season. Maybe some guys that even could be 1,000-yard rushers within their first 2 years in the NFL. Our list goes as follows for tier 2. 6, Damian Martinez from Miami. 5, Trevion Henderson from Ohio State. 4, Kaleb Johnson from Iowa. 3, DJ Giddens from Kansas State. And 2, Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. Let's talk about Damian Martinez first, because I've noticed that the general public in the consensus overall doesn't value Damian Martinez the same way that we do.
Now, I love Damian Martinez. Obviously, he spent his first 2 years at Oregon State, his last year at Miami. I don't think Miami did him any favors with their run blocking in 2024. I thought that he had to create a lot for himself, but he's a bigger back, Joe, over 220 plus pounds, has incredible vision, has really good feel as a runner. He brings kind of a Le'Veon Bell style to the game, so he's a bigger back with extreme patience. And I think even if he's not a guy that is going to impact the passing game, he's going to be a really good early down runner on the next level.
Yeah, he has the build to be a guy that ends up getting a ton of carries, especially early on in his career. And maybe he goes to a team that's competing for the playoffs or is in the playoffs. He could certainly have an unexpected rise, especially in the fantasy ranks. Kaleb Johnson, we haven't spent much time talking about him on this channel, and I think that he's just one of the smoothest running backs that we've seen in this class. I think it makes a lot of sense that he doesn't get discussed much because he's just so well-rounded. He's another player who has that vision that sets him up to succeed once he plants in the ground and he gets a little bit of space to pick up a huge gain.
He's another player that's in the 220-something pound range, and he runs with great patience, and he's really good at sorting traffic. Like, that's the biggest thing about Kaleb Johnson's game that I think is really exciting. Not an explosive athlete, a really smooth athlete that I think evaluates space and works the first and second level at a great pace. Yeah, so I think that him overall, he's going to be an early down runner, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's a perennial 1,000-yard rusher before too long.
DJ Giddens, we're both very big fans of, and you gave a very optimistic comparison for him with Todd Gurley, saying that that's what he could be. another player that I'm so surprised that the general NFL draft media coverage is not giving him more love, because he's got the build and the athleticism to be somebody who is an 1,000-yard rusher as a rookie.
Well, I mean, they're starting to now, right? After he did what he did at the combine, we're starting to see him in the top 75 of mocks now, which is where he should have been before the combine, because he is the most patient runner in this class. I think he has the best vision in this class. And I mean, he's a little bit of a high cut runner that has this dead leg that just makes second and third level defenders look really silly in space. Like, go pop on the Colorado game if you want to see some DJ Giddens and making guys look really silly in the hole. So I really think that he is a guy that's going to be better than what his draft evaluation is, what some people think of him. I think that this guy is an early down runner and 1,000-yard back on the NFL level without question.
Omarion Hampton, you and I had differing opinions on him and Giddens. I had Omarion Hampton at number 2. You had him at 3. You had Giddens at 2. I had Giddens at 3. So we're kind of in that same ballpark. But Omarion Hampton, I think, has just the aggressive play style that some NFL teams that like to have a power-based rushing scheme to run between the tackles. Hampton is going to be coveted by particular franchises to this point where he could end up going in the first round. A team like the Pittsburgh Steelers makes really strong sense because they like to be physical. They like to run the ball down opposing teams' throats. And they also have uncertainty at quarterback that you could have a player like Omarion Hampton start to really take over and take some pressure off of whoever is taking those snaps.
So when I talked about DJ Giddens, I talked about nuance, I talked about patience. Omarion Hampton's the exact opposite. Like, he is not a patient runner, and I don't mean that as a negative. He's a guy that wants to get downhill in a hurry, wants to be physical. He's an explosive athlete. If you want great vision, I don't think that's necessarily there. I don't think he's great nuance, but if you want a physical, downhill, explosive runner that can move the chains, that's what Hampton brings to the table.
Ashton Jeanty is the only player that we have in Tier 1. And Tier 1 is blue chip talent, meaning guys that could go on to be potential superstars, one of the best running backs in the NFL. And I think it's summed up perfectly by the historic, crazy season that he had this year, almost breaking Barry Sanders' rushing yardage record, being in the Heisman race, almost winning the award, but getting knocked out by Travis Hunter. He is easily one of the most exciting running backs that I have had the privilege of watching, because every single time he touches the football, he can take that ball to the house. What makes him so great?
It's I mean, let me flip it on you real quick before I go in depth on it, Joe. What does Ashton Jeanty not do well? Right? Like, that's my biggest thing when I look at him. He's good at everything. He's a physical, dense, low compact runner that has great contact balance. He catches the ball well. He blocks. He understands how to manipulate space. He's really good sorting through traffic. Outside of him running 4.3 something, I just don't think there's anything missing with an Ashton Jeanty. So he's a guy that I think is going to be a number one back on the NFL level as a rookie. I could see him being a perennial 1,000-yard rusher, but also have 50-plus catches every single year. This is an all-around weapon that we haven't seen at the running back position come out in the last couple years. I would even argue that Bijan Robinson was a great athlete, but I think Ashton Jeanty is a better football player right now.
Yeah, the way that he was able to have not only a big impact for his G5 program at Boise State, but he was also able to just completely ascend past any expectation. I think coming into the year, there was this hope that, like, hey, Jeanty could be one of the best running backs in the class, could be the best running back in the class, but he transformed. Well,
he was my RB1. You didn't agree to that, but he was my RB1, yes. Okay, I'm sorry.
I will not share who my RB1 was coming into the season because I look silly. He made the list, though. He made the list, but I was definitely wrong. But Jeanty, though, I don't think anyone could have guessed that he was going to have this level of a historic year. It was completely bonkers seeing him put up the production that he did. And I think that production's translatable. It's not like this was a circumstance, Ryan, of a guy who was playing against lower competition and was just running past everybody. He was creating his own space. He was creating his own big plays by bouncing off of tacklers and then picking up speed in a hurry. We don't need athletic testing numbers to know that this guy is a freak and could end up being a top 3 running back within a couple of seasons.
He averaged over 5 yards a carry last year after contact. So after he was contacted, half half the length of a chain of getting close to a first down. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous numbers. And we saw it against good competition. We saw him run for almost 200 yards against Oregon, even though he didn't have as impressive of a game. Obviously, in the playoffs against Penn State, he still ran for 100 yards. And you know what you saw in that game? Why was Boise State able to keep that close for a while? It's because he opened up the passing game because everybody just wanted to stop Ashton Jeanty in that game overall, right? So he did it against the best competition. He's a dynamic runner, really good receiver. There's just nothing not really to like about a guy like an Ashton Jeanty.
Folks, let us know in the comments. Did we miss anybody? Who else should we have included? Who is your favorite running back in the 2025 NFL Draft? The like button and subscribe. We'll talk to you later.